All right, guys, thank y'all for coming in today. We're talking with Mr. Michael and Miss Savannah Ray with Thirsty Farmer in Calhoun, Louisiana. So thank you guys for taking the time out of your busy schedules and coming in to just chat with us for a little bit.
Yeah, glad to be
Absolutely.
here.
Happy to be here.
So before we started recording, I mentioned that I watched the video on your website, which was very well done. I mean, very, very informative. Um, But I'd like to go a little bit back before the video really dug into it. Is that when you guys started making wine, it sounds to me like you had no idea that it would be what it is today. Is that a fair statement?
100%. Yeah.
So I know that you've got a background in the medical field. Did you have winemaking background or uh,
No, not at
from the
all.
word go? So how did this start? Just kind of with just a passion for the
A passion of, well, it truly started with my wife buying me a homemade or a home brew kit to make beer. And that was the very first thing I ever learned how to ferment. So we were doing that at home, and it was kind of fun. And made some that were not so good, but made a few, and then we, I guess it would have started with the fruit at the house, yeah, the pear
Yeah,
tree.
yeah, yeah.
so what were you
The
making with
pear
pears?
tree, yes. We were making straight alcohol. It
We
tasted like it was
it
terrible.
was
We called it the mind eraser because it was terrible.
extremely potent.
Our friends liked it, but we were like, guys, this is
It's
really
So
not
was
it's
it was
bad.
not
it
good.
friends just trying to be nice?
Yeah, I'm
Partly, I
sure.
think, yeah,
But then they came back.
They came back.
yeah, they came back, and
So
then
But it started way before making wine. I mean, I think the love and our passion came way before that. We purchased a piece of property that was fairly large in our minds, and it was an old watermelon field.
okay,
And we wanted to have a place for our kids to grow up that was in the country, that they could ride around and play and be outside and be safe
just
and
turn them loose.
yes,
yeah,
yes. And when we looked at this piece of property, we were like, what in the world could we plant? So we just because it was just such great uh, fertile soil for that.
Now,
But
it,
were you guys originally from this area, born and raised?
we
Okay,
are.
yeah,
Went to West Washita High School out in West Washita area. Graduated from St. Fred's, but born and raised in the Calhoun, West Monroe area.
yeah.
awesome. So
Mhm.
started dabbling in the home brew,
Mhm.
um, alcohol making with pears and making white lightning, something
Yes,
Yeah.
along those lines.
Yeah.
it was, yeah,
So you
it
started down
was
this
rough.
path, and um, how did you go from, a homebrew kit to, well, I think we want to try wine. Now, is wine something that you guys um, have been connoisseurs of for a time, or something y'all dabbled in? Why the wine versus the beer?
Yeah, so we actually went to Sonoma Valley for one of my conferences,
Okay,
and Michael and I went and fell in love with the vineyards. And I said, that's what we need to come back and plant because I mean, I just fell in love and I wanted to walk outside and I wanted to see vines. And I had always loved wine, but never after so much after seeing the wine production side of things and seeing the vines and seeing I mean, just the magic that it sparkled in me was very very different once I visited Sonoma Valley. So he came back, and that's when we planted vines.
so I've never been to that part of the country. I've been to California, Southern California.
Uh huh.
Sonoma's more northern,
It is.
so I hear it is absolutely beautiful,
Yeah.
and I can, picture, the vineyards well manicured, and can see how you would be attracted to this is what I want our land to produce.
Hmm.
But the land here in Calhoun, Louisiana is probably a different soil mixture than what they have in Sonoma. So what kind of challenges
Yeah.
did y'all find with the land? And Did y'all know you would have challenges with the land?
No, I just wanted pretty vines.
Okay.
Yeah, it all
So-
started that way. She wanted to see pretty vines, walk
Yeah.
out the back porch, and see a vineyard block. And yeah, when we were in California, I reluctantly went. I didn't even want to go. But then she teased me with, "Well, we'll get away from San Francisco and we'll go north." And I was like, "Well, what's north?" "Well, Napa and Sonoma." And I said, "I'll go. Let's go see it." So yeah, Sonoma was different. It was learning that wine wasn't what I thought it was. It wasn't what I saw on the shelf. You got out there and you see these people. Some of them had 2 or 3 acres planted. Some of them several hundred, up into the thousands. Just depends. But I mean, they were just row crop farmers. They were farming. It just wasn't what we were used to seeing. You
Mhm.
know, the corn and everything else that we see growing here in cotton. These guys they're row crop too, but it's grapes, and that changed my mind about what grapes were versus what wine really was in the bottle, versus seeing it on the shelf, trying it, liking some back then, not liking that many, like a lot more of them now. But yeah, just came back with a different attitude about it. She asked for me to plant, and I had no idea what to do. I didn't know what to do. We didn't.
Mhm.
Um, got to digging around really on the internet, looking at trellis systems, looking to see how you're supposed to grow them. What do you do to grow them? What does the soil not have, or what, does it have too much of something, and a lot of those questions we didn't even answer.
Mm-mm.
We bought we bought 3 varietals. We bought Pinot Noir, Riesling, and Chardonnay
Mhm.
from a certified. Uh, it was a certified
Nursery.
nursery, actually, in upstate New York, is where the vines came from. They came to us as babies. They were dormant. They were a couple years old. Um,
How old does a vine typically need to be before it starts producing quality fruit?
3 years.
3 years.
3 years first production, quality fruit. I would say 5 years.
5, yeah, for
Mhm.
sure, to really see what it's doing.
Mhm.
How much different is the fruit from year 3 to year 5?
It can be a lot different. I mean, depending on the weather patterns and how all that went for the year, but the sugar contents, the the soil, the everything that went into it,
Yield.
definitely the yields
Mhm.
are, much more tons per acre when you're looking at year 5 than you are year 3 if everything went well
Sure.
that year.
So you talked about the different varieties and you put out some big words that I'm not going to try to put back out there again. Uh, I would have to assume that the grapes that you guys are trying to grow for quality wine production are not the same grapes that we feed our kids out of the grocery store.
That's
It's
correct.
probably something completely different.
It is.
Yep.
It
So,
What you're
is.
drinking out of the grocery store is usually like a Concord grape,
okay.
a varietal. What we're doing is a vinifera varietal.
What is the high level view? What is the difference between the two types of grapes? Is it sugar content that's in it? Is it the one that we go to the store and we eat? Is that just higher sugar content? Is it lower than what you're growing to make wine?
Well, it really stemmed from, the first grapes where they came from France and Italy, and we're coming over to the U.S. from that because we knew that made good wine. I think that, not to say you can't make wine, you can make wine out of anything,
Well,
by the way, that has a starch.
okay, okay.
So, some people have made wine out of Concord grapes, and
Sure.
they do that upstate New York, and
Well, I guess a better question is
Mhm.
a wine grape a good tasting grape to eat?
they have seeds, and they're very tannic. So when I say tannic, imagine eating the inside of a pecan.
Oh yeah,
So
I know.
like that dry, really dry feeling.
I mean, I just had some pecans before I walked over here,
Yes.
so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
so that feeling of so a good red variety has a lot of that tannin structure so that it can hold on through the life of the grape while it's in the wine production. So
Okay.
not something like a table grape where you would eat off of the table. Those don't have a lot of tannins.
Okay.
So
But
So,
I mean, I was just thinking at maturity they're still sweet.
Mm-hmm.
okay.
So the wine grape, even if you pick it and eat one,
Yeah.
there's still sugar content, especially once they're ripe. They're sweet, but there's a lot of tannins in the skins, so
Okay.
it's kind of weird to
Yeah.
just pop one in
And
your
most
mouth.
have seeds.
Right,
Okay.
and most of your table grapes are seedless. Most.
So you started off on the internet. Well, you saw Napa Valley Sonoma. You're like, I get it now. I mean, vines, grapes. We're gonna do it. But were you thinking big like you guys are now when you said, I'm just gonna, you know, grow some grapes and we might just play around a little bit with it? What was the initial plan when you before you put the first plant in the ground? We're going to need this much equipment if we're going to grow this many grapes, or is this like we're just going to plant it and see what happens?
That is exactly. It was plant it and see what happens. The plan was to have vines to look at and make my wife happy when she walked out the back door.
And that's very, very
I
important.
mean, that's what I was
very
doing.
important.
It wasn't. And once we did get them in the ground, we had friends. When they saw that we were going to do it, they wanted to show up and help plant, and of course, ask a lot of questions too while we were planting. And a lot of them we couldn't even answer back then. I was like, I don't know. We're going to put them in the ground. I'm going to put irrigation down, and we're going to make them grow. We know we can make something grow. So we knew we could do that. We didn't even know how to prune them. And then we both said once it was over, it was only 250 or so vines in that block. But we said, well, we got 3 years. We got 3 years to keep making wine and figure out how to not make bad wine.
Okay.
Because
Before our
grapes
production
were
comes in.
ready.
Yeah. I said, well, we have 3 years. Let's try it. Let's try some wine. Try making wine.
Yep.
In the meantime, that way when we do get our grapes in, that we'll maybe know what we're doing.
maybe.
So did you, in your research, was there a lot of soil prep that needed to be done at that time, or that maybe came later? You're just like, I wouldn't even think about that. I just need to get the
Yeah.
vines in. I want them in the ground. I want to look nice.
Yes.
Yeah, the soil prep was something that should have happened, but it didn't necessarily on that block. So I wound up having to do a lot of amendments after the fact, which was really just pH correction,
Right.
Lime. Our soil really isn't that bad. It's where we're at. It's pretty sandy, and grapes like that.
Mhm.
The sand lets go of the water; it doesn't sit there and hold it. The grapes like water, but they don't like to sit in it.
Okay.
So little did we know, we kind of got lucky because there was watermelons planted there. Same thing; they like sand, and didn't really know how well those watermelons had grown there until we planted some years later. But regardless, the soil was. It wasn't that bad. I did some lime amendments, did some inline fertilizer stuff through my drip irrigation, and that just came from me researching, trying to figure out how to set that up and how to send those fertilizers directly to the vines.
Right. Instead of covering all the ground that
Yeah,
is
instead of just
needed.
broadcasting.
Okay.
Right.
Awesome.
Right.
So we've got our vines. They came in. We got them planted. Friends asking questions. You don't know how to answer everything.
No.
I'm just here to make the wife happy. It's going to look pretty. We'll figure the rest out as we go.
Sure.
Does that kind of sum it up.
That's
so
it.
far?
Yeah, yeah.
Pretty much.
So what type of maintenance needs to happen? You mentioned pruning briefly. What type of maintenance needs to happen to be able to grow a healthy vine?
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you start that one.
Well,
I'm just really intrigued in
you
this
know,
process.
after the vine's in the ground, you're spending that first good 2 years to 3 years working on your vine training. You have to have a good trellising system. We
Okay.
chose our vertical shoot positioning, which is the vine shoots up here in the middle. You have a cordon to the right and a cordon to the left,
Okay.
and then the vines grow off of those cordons upwards.
Okay.
Because I like the look.
Okay. Because that's where it started from. Right?
Yeah,
That's
that was
right.
pretty.
Well, the first year you're working on
Just
that
the trunk.
The next year you're working on your cordons and laying them down. The next year you're working on the spurs that come off of the cordons so that you can correctly place those cordons to where you have good airflow for the grape to even grow.
Okay.
And then throughout the year, you're doing trimming. It just depends on what type of year it is. After bud break, you're really worried about weather. You're
Bud
worried about
breaks,
freezing.
very scary.
When does a grape vine normally produce? What time of the year?
We-
Ours is in summer,
Okay.
so
Dead summer,
dead
August
summer, hot.
typically
Yeah,
is
August.
harvest. Yeah,
Yeah.
So do you still have to worry with, you mentioned freezing,
Mhm.
in that early spring? Does that have an effect on the,
very much so. Yeah,
Mhm.
we lost an entire crop just this past growing season because of that. So, yeah, early April is what we've been seeing. Our varietals break, and that means they go from dormancy, it looks like dead twigs, to all of a sudden the buds open up and the shoots start to grow. It's fun and scary all at the same
sure,
time.
is there
Yeah.
anything preventative that you guys can do if, the buds start coming out and we have a couple days warning that we're gonna
Mhm.
have a hard freeze? Are there some preventative things that you guys can do?
Yeah, you sound like our friends. Well,
Okay.
because
We're gonna be reinforced.
Oh no,
Yeah,
that's
because
they,
we're all crying and stuff because we lost our crop this year, and they're like, "Well, what could you do?" And we're like, "Yeah, we could have done stuff, we could have, but
yeah, but it's pretty extreme.
Yeah.
it's extreme and it's expensive, and all that goes into our thought
Cost of
process.
goods and yeah,
So, I mean,
yeah.
you can do something as simple as burning fires to get to kind of heat the area or decrease the humidity.
Yeah, it just keeps the frost from
Keeps the
falling.
So
frost.
those
Uh-huh.
fires, I've got a friend of mine that has a smudge pot. You know, a
Smudge
smudge.
pots,
Yeah,
So he's
yes.
got one of those that he used for, early crawfish season. People are
Yeah.
gathered and
yeah.
to kind of heat the place. But my word, those things are some dangerous
They're
piece
hot.
of equipment
Very.
They
if you don't
are.
know what's going on. I mean,
Right.
Very.
filled full of diesel. He's like, somebody go over there and light that. And
Right.
this guy's a fireman, and he'll just take a piece of paper, light
Yes.
it in there
Yeah.
on fire. I'm just like, it's just a little dangerous.
It is.
Yeah,
It
smudge-
So
is.
smudge pots would be a way. I
It
think they
is.
use them a lot in
Mhm.
Florida for the citrus
Citrus.
grows.
Yep.
I do.
What other things other than fire could you actually do?
Big production, they use windmills of some sort.
Yeah. Big
Mhm.
turbines.
Big
Oh,
turbines.
okay.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of hoping and praying because just like with a row crop farmer trying to grow corn, is that do I spend $20,000 in
That's right.
fuel to irrigate more because we don't have any rain, versus I just gonna have to cross my fingers and see what happens. I don't have the extra 20K to make it happen.
That's
Right.
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 Yeah.
Yeah. For
That's
us,
right.
we the only thing I've ever done out of the ordinary that was 2 years ago. I got out there that morning with sprinklers, and that was the second block that we planted behind the house. I got out. We had a frost setting that morning. I was out there at 3:30 a.m. The night before, I set up 5 different broadcast sprinklers and was out there with a water hose at 3:30 in the morning, wetting everything. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but it actually shields the buds
Okay.
from the frost setting on them. Although it's cold, but the temperature of the water coming out of the hose is still warmer than that frost that's going to set down.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
yeah, had to stay out there till after sunrise with the water on, soaking wet.
Yeah.
It's cold, but it did save those that year. And but after that, I swore I wouldn't do that again because it was pretty miserable.
I can
Um,
imagine.
yeah, so it's
Yeah.
pretty extreme. I mean, like I said, there's things you can do, but it's also you start looking at acreage. Now we've got that another block, the one that we're talking about that we lost the crop on. It's a lot larger. It's 18 rows. Um, it's all on a big hill that slants away from the winery, um, and it would just. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it'd just be costly.
Yeah.
To really try to keep it from hurting them.
So we're up to the point we've got our first vines planted. We got 3 years to figure out what we're going to do,
Yeah.
how we're going to make wine, and
Yeah.
we're going to try to perfect the process. How did those 3 years go?
So we brought in anything we could to make wine. We brought in juice, we brought in grapes, we brought in fruits, we brought in all kinds of different things to try to learn just the basics of the process. And our laundry room turned into our winery room.
It was our winery.
Okay.
We used buckets. We used
Carboys.
carboys and buckets, and just started fermenting, learning, tasting, bottling. Just started learning the whole process. And when we started, the wine was not good. That's my honest opinion.
Okay.
It was
But you were still talking very small batches, though,
very
right?
small. I mean,
Yeah.
5 gallon.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple of
5
cases.
gallons at a time, couple cases at a time. The reds and the whites that we made were just they just wasn't cutting it.
One dimensional.
The sweeter stuff, the fruitier stuff, that was a little bit easier to make. So we got, a little bit of understanding there. And then we made that mind eraser from the pears was really bad. And I said, we got to go to school. We got to learn. We've got to learn some more. All while we visited so many wineries and so many vineyards during that 3 years.
Okay.
And we still do that to this day.
Now, how helpful is that community?
It's
It-
tremendous.
Yeah.
That is the education that afforded us to be where we're at today, was meeting people in the industry, learning what they've done, learning the processes in which they've taken their, winery and vineyard to, and where they came from and where they're at now. I mean, we interviewed and I asked the same questions every time. What would you do over again? And would you do this all over again? Because I wanted to, we started thinking about the process of even having our own and thought, are these people happy in this industry? And
What did you find?
all of them would do it over again. So that
Yeah.
means a lot to me when I'm talking to people about their careers and their life.
Sure.
And, is it something, meaningful in life? Do you feel, leaving legacies and things like that? That means a lot to us. So,
It means a lot to me that this is a path that you're heading down. Too many times in society, we're kind of given this blueprint that says this is what you're supposed to do and go do it, and whether you're
That's right.
happy or
Right.
not, it's what you're supposed to do. And to truly find something that you can be happy with and be passionate about, it's man, it's the difference for me from having a life you love versus a life that you just don't like.
Right.
And we're just kind of going through the motions.
right.
I don't want to live life going through the motions. I want to be engaged. And like I'm doing now, I'm having a great opportunity to meet people like you that I would never have done
Right.
had I not took that step to go out and try something different.
Right.
So that community sounds like it's really helpful. Now, I know that there's big production companies that
Mhm.
are producing wine. They
Mhm.
have to be, because when I go into any of our large convenience stores around town, there's like 100 different options, maybe even more than that, to choose from.
Sure.
Right.
So there's got to be a big production. But what would you say is it from the outsider looking into the community? It
Yeah.
seems like there are a lot of small, and I don't know if small is the right way to put it, but there are wineries that are about y'all size that do extremely well within the community. Is that accurate? Do you have to be one of the major players to be able to have a successful winery?
No, absolutely not. I think that what sets you aside as that winery in the local community, and one thing for us, we follow that we are the vineyard manager. It's us two. We are the vineyard manager. We're the winemakers. We are the tasting room managers. We're your wine club manager. We are all of that. And when you go to these big facilities, that's a whole nother thing to learn in itself. I mean, the production side of that, but you're not getting that local feel and that one-on-one with the owner or winemaker or whatever piece of that. We'll teach you anything you want to know about it. But when you're going into these big wineries, they make wine on such a huge level.
That person that's growing that grape is not that person that's
Absolutely not.
producing the product,
That's right.
which
No.
is then a different person that's probably selling the product or talking about or discussing it with someone else.
That's right.
So you guys bring an experience to the product that you guys offer. Would that be a
That's what-
fair?
Absolutely.
That's what we
And
want
I
to do.
think people want to learn about that. They, people that may not have had wine before and we're able to just, talk to them about the wine a little bit and talk to them about the process and really get a wine in front of them that they can enjoy, versus running them through a big tour facility. But not to say we would not grow. I'm just saying that it's just something different about doing all aspects of it, of
Sounds
the
like
whole
the
process.
experience that the customer consumer gets is important to you guys.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, that's eventually led to our, us wanting the tasting room open, was because we wanted people to experience what we had experienced
Before
at
we
these
get in-
local wineries.
Before we get into the tasting room, I want to go back. You started down a path talking about education.
Mhm.
So bring me up to speed on that. So we're still within our 3-year period.
Yep.
We've got our first set of vines that they're out there, that they're planting. You're pruning, you're training them to grow the way that you want them to grow, and you're still learning along the way. But at some point, you reached a a revelation that we've got to learn more.
Mhm.
So tell me about that.
You want to talk about the analogy program?
You want me to go?
Yeah.
I think you gave me that for a Father's Day gift, or was it Christmas?
Uh-huh.
Christmas.
Christmas.
So yeah,
Congratulations, I'm sending you to school.
it's kind of how it went down. Yeah. So yeah, and that would have been December of 18. She surprised me with basically a box with a certificate and some paperwork, and I didn't know what that meant, and started reading, and I said, "This is college. What are we doing? Who's doing what?" She said, "I've already signed you up. You're going to Enology College in Texas." I was like,
Say that word again.
Enology. That's the scientific term for winemaking. So
Okay.
you've got viticulture, which is the grape growing side, and enology is the wine.
Okay.
Not that I had everything down on the viticulture side, but we were already growing. I wanted to know more. We were messing up wine. I wasn't really messing up grapes, per se. We'll get to that. So yeah, she surprised me with it, and I didn't even realize how quickly it was going to start. But in January, less than a month of 19, right? Yeah, January of 19, I went, and it's a program that Grayson University puts on. It's just outside of Denison, Texas, and I had no idea I was going there blind. I didn't know what to expect, what to do. I just knew that they taught people from a chemistry standpoint truly how to make wine, and chemistry was something that I kind of shrugged off probably after high school. Didn't think I would ever touch that again.
Yeah.
I'm a chemist now. That's just how it's happened. But yeah, so I go to Enology College. I went for, like I said, in January. Very first time, it was a weekend deal, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and left my wife at home with the kids, and took off. And the very first day, it was kind of an introduction day, but it was so neat because I sat down in a classroom that was pretty good size, 30 plus folks, and they all wanted to know how to make wine, or they were already making wine, and kind of
Wanna
like
do
me.
better.
Yeah, kind of like me, needing to understand what did I do to mess it up? I didn't know.
How long was this course for?
We went for, and I'll get to the we part. We went
6 months.
6 months, yeah, probably.
Mhm.
So it was a lot of traveling. I mean, it's 5-6 hours for me to get there every weekend, and it was a lot of time gone. But the very first weekend I went, I came home so excited, like giddy excited, like a kid. I couldn't explain to her all the information that I had, and I'm flipping through my notebook trying to show her notes, and I was talking so fast. And then I got to the fun part, and I said, "Hey, by the way, I convinced the professor to let you come to class." Because he had already told me that he said she couldn't come. The class was full. They weren't going to accept anymore, And I said, "Look, it's crawfish season in Louisiana.
Okay, well, you're telling us.
I got to tell them."
Oh, you got to tell.
Yeah, it's crawfish season in Louisiana. And I was like, y'all don't know how to cook crawfish up here. I'll bring crawfish back. I'll bring my pots. I'll bring everything if you let my wife come to these classes. And he said, you got a deal.
Bribed them with
So
crawfish.
I did. I bribed him with crawfish. And the very next weekend, I showed up with
Hey,
crawfish
look,
and my
that's
wife.
the mark of a true small business owner. That says we're gonna get creative to get something done, and if it's gonna be crawfish, we do what it takes, right?
That's right.
And it was.
That's right.
Yeah. So we cooked crawfish that weekend and fed the whole class. And Savannah got to come along, and we both got to really dive into the enology side with class there. So it was.
How long did it take you to realize some of the mistakes that you were making early on? That you may have had a good process, but
Mm-hmm.
I just need to make these tweaks with them. How long did it take you before you realized that that's it?
About
That's
about 6 hours into the very
Wow.
first day. Like there was so much stuff that we had not been even doing or documenting or
Considering,
or
yeah.
you didn't even know that you had to, check or measure these certain things. I mean, it seems elementary now, but I look back
Right.
and we didn't even have a hydrometer, and I was like, they start talking about hydrometers, and I'm like, whoa, what is that? I mean, it's just sugar and yeast, and let it go. It's going to ferment. You're
Well, we
going to
gotta
make
make sure
alcohol.
the right mixes in there.
So yeah, I was
Yeah.
like I said, completely blind. I mean, I was just I didn't have the correct knowledge of what the winemaking part meant.
Yeah.
We just knew how to make we knew how to make alcohol. Really, is what it started with, and then yeah, within hours, really dialed in that we
Mhm.
were pretty clueless
We
on the
were.
winemaking
We
side.
were. And I think the last class or one of our next to last classes was about the business side of the winery and what, about how much it costs
Yeah.
to
Did that scare you?
no, I had never really put the business side
So you were not even
to
looking at
no.
business. You're just,
No,
we
I
want to see
just
the grapes that are coming in 3 years. We want to see what we can do with them. We're not even looking to recoup our investment at this point.
No,
But
then we
I
weren't.
remember writing in that notebook. I remember thinking, "You mean you can make money at this?" I mean, I
Yeah, it
remember
was.
looking at Michael thinking, "Are you kidding me? People actually
don't buy this stuff if it tastes
It
decent.
Yeah, it was a bit of an aha
was a
moment.
light bulb."
Yeah, in class.
And it was just anyway, it was just it was a light bulb for me. And what the class also did was the people that we met within that class are still our friends today. We still call them with our challenges. We still help each other with when we do have successes, we have to share with them. When we do have challenges, we help each other out, and that's what that community really that class really helped do for us too.
So when you guys finished the class, so about 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
you guys come home. What changes did you guys make in the winemaking process,
Mm-hmm.
and then looking at it for a business? Or you may have heard that you can make money at this, but did you, when the class finished, did you realize that we need to start thinking about this also?
Yeah, I think that right about that time though, our grapes died.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
Our
we're
first vineyard
we're
died.
and you haven't really started production on them yet.
Right.
So
That's right.
we didn't complete the full 3 years.
That's
to
right.
get ready, and the vineyard dies.
Yes.
yes,
What happened?
Yes.
we had fruit hanging year 3.
Yeah.
So it was that. So yeah. So we went to class. That's right. Class started in January. By the time harvest happened that year,
Mm-hmm.
we had fruit on those vines. They looked beautiful. And as soon as veraison started to happen, that's when the red grapes go from green to red,
Okay.
literal color. As soon as that started happening, we had taken a handful of pictures a couple of days prior of it happening because it was Pinot Noir, it was in Calhoun, and it was real fruit. I don't think that's probably ever happened in this part of the country to have that grape actually growing and be maturing. And 2 days later, every fruit, every cluster that was hanging on those vines was on the ground, and I'm just off and had fallen. And that was when we freaked out. We really did not
Mhm.
know what had happened, and then we started doing research, and it was a, it was a disease that I knew about from just educating myself, and then of course through the process of talking to people in class too. Um, that Pierce's disease was a real disease, and it would kill the vines slowly, but it will kill them. It's you can't prevent it, you can't fix it. And sure enough, that whole block.
Wait a minute. So
Mhm.
you have this beautiful vineyard that your dream is now coming to fruition,
Mhm.
and you get hit with a disease that you have zero control over,
Cannot do anything about it.
can't have any control over, and you now know that this is what happened, and I can't have any control over it. Did you just want to curl up in a ball and just cry a little bit?
Of course.
I mean, I
In the
would
beginning,
have. It's
Of
just,
course.
I don't think I literally would have done that, but that's got to be very demoralizing
Yeah.
at that point, knowing that I got hit with something that I can't protect myself from.
it was tough.
So how does one protect themselves with something you can't protect yourself with?
Well, you do more research and you look back on the thing that failed and see where it helped you. So, in that last 3 years that we had been working the vineyard, we learned the whole life of the grape. We learned vineyard trellising system and how to do that. We learned how to prune. We learned how to all kinds of things that really needed to work with vineyard management. So after about a week of being sad, we started looking back at things and what it did teach us and what we could do better. So that happened in August. So I said, we're planting a different grape, a hybrid varietal that works well in this area.
So
And
was it the type of grape to this
yes,
area that set you guys up for failure on this?
yeah. So it is this type of grape in any area is susceptible to Pierce's disease. But
Okay.
in our area, so it comes from a what's called a grassy winged sharpshooter,
Okay.
um, which essentially is around hot, humid, wet areas. Well, we're in Louisiana, so um, typically you do not see vinifera grapes grown in this type of area. Um, there are hybrid varietals now out there that have been studied and planted and grown for 20 plus years that are even longer than that, that
Mhm.
do grow well in this area that are now Pierce disease resistant
Okay.
because of this particular vector. So one that grew well, that we knew grew well, was Lenoir Black Spanish, which is black Spanish, and then also Blanc de Bois, which is a white grape. So we
Okay.
knew those things. So we said, turn around next spring and let's plant those.
Yeah.
So
So you started off how many vines in the very beginning?
It wasn't but about the very first block was 150. Yeah.
That's a
Mhm.
lot though.
And then it's all by hand. So I mean it's
So
not just a little to deal
when you
with.
wiped that out, so
Mm-hmm.
starting from scratch, the next planting, how many did you plant?
We doubled down.
We did 300.
Yeah, a little over
Guys,
300.
You guys
Mhm.
mean business. That's dedication. I mean, it really is, because you're hitting a point that, I mean, the worst case scenario happened to you guys. And it's either we're going to give up and say this just isn't for us, or man, we're going to push through. We're determined we're going to make this happen.
Yeah.
And how old are your kids? You have two kids,
They're
right?
14 and 9 right now.
Mhm.
So I think it's really important for them to sit back and watch adversity happen
Mhm.
and how you guys respond to it. You know, we live in a society today to where we struggle with victimhood of bad things happen, and the perseverance that we saw from the Great Depression from that generation. I mean, I think we've lost a good bit of it.
Mhm.
And for you guys to be able to show your kids that, we may get punched in the gut, but we don't have to lay on the ground. We can do something about it.
Sure.
Now, does it suck that we're having to go through it? Absolutely it does. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
but we're going to figure this thing out and
Yeah.
be able to push through. Otherwise, what do we do it for in the beginning, right?
That's right.
So we doubled down. We got 300 vines that's out there. This podcast is possible because of your support of our real estate business. If you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, I'm confident we have the tools and the processes to help you reach your real estate goal. For more information or to reach out to us, check out the podcast description for our contact info. You probably built your systems a little different based on knowledge that you guys have made doing this. Were you able, did you have any additional land prep now before you made this next planning?
Yeah. I went in beforehand and did some preparation before, before we set posts, before we do any irrigation. I ripped the ground with like a single tooth ripper. Tried to make most of the additions before anything happened. Irrigation, we tweaked that.
Yeah. Got better on our irrigation.
Yep, and then we knew how to set up the end post, the line post. We set up a better cabling system for that.
So your infrastructure was better, the land
Absolutely.
was better prepared.
Yes.
It's like we're in. We got 300 in the ground. Now comes the 3 years.
Now we're 3 again.
And we're through again.
Right.
3 again. Now during that 3 years, you're still going to produce some fruit, right? But we're not going to do anything with it because the fruit's not mature enough.
About year 2, it starts producing.
Yeah,
a little bit, but
Yeah.
so sporadic that
It's not enough to do anything.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
now we did.
But you,
Yeah, we.
but I'm saying you still got excited when you started seeing fruit.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. So first harvest,
Yep.
year
Okay.
3.
Mm-hmm.
Describe that to me
Oh my gosh.
because we have 300 vines.
that was amazing. Our
There's
first,
the 2 of y'all and 2 kids.
yeah.
And
We-
a lot of good friends.
And friends. We invited friends. So he mentioned that you have to harvest really early. So to get friends over on a Sunday at 5 o'clock in the morning was a lot.
Why do you have to harvest early?
Heat.
Heat.
First, it's just not fun to harvest anything when it's
Sure.
110. But
Agreed.
the grapes themselves, so they're very, very susceptible to temperature at this point because they're ripe. Everything's when you say ripe for the picking, that's where these were. So you have to try to get them off the vine and into the winery, or for our case, it was in the carport because we didn't have anywhere to go.
Now we've outgrown the laundry room.
The
right?
laundry room was no
Okay,
more.
so
Oh well,
now-
it was.
We got our,
Yeah, we were out of space in the laundry
We-
room, and I had two.
we had 2 large tanks in the foyer.
I had two
Okay.
Two
Dedicated.
600-liter stainless steel tanks sitting in
Yeah.
our foyer. You couldn't come in the front door.
How do you measure the crop? Is it based on bushels? How do you measure the volume
Tonnage.
tonnage? So
Yep.
first harvest, what was your tonnage?
At one.
Very first harvest was 1 ton.
Mhm.
1 ton.
1 ton, yeah. So 2,000 pounds of grapes.
All right, so we got 2,000 pounds of grape that were all brought into your carport.
Uh-huh.
How long do you have to where you, I don't know, start the production process to get from the fruit to the, is it pulp or is it juice? What is it?
Kind of both.
Yeah.
So we run it through this particular harvest. We ran it through a crusher destemmer, which is
Immediately. So like ours came from
Oh,
the
yeah.
vineyard
So you have to
immediately.
Yeah,
you have
you're-
to do it immediately.
You're making
you
wine.
don't have to. If not, you could put it on ice and store it for
Okay.
later. But
It really needs to be sooner rather than later.
Sure. Well, for us, it would have to be. We didn't have a way to keep anything cold.
Okay.
They can do some cold storage stuff like the big facilities you were talking about, and some of the things that we deal with out of California now. They can store harvested fruit in very big cold storage facilities. However, we're at the house. Things are getting hot. We started at daylight, so by
you don't.
11
Yeah.
by 11 o'clock, we had it's sitting in a tank.
Now, is all the fruit ripe at the same time, or do you have a couple of different harvests over a week period based on, the status of the fruit?
So we're checking sugar levels up to 2 weeks up to harvest, and looking for consistencies within the whole vineyard, and at a certain bricks level, sugar level, if you will. And we harvest all at once.
Okay. So everything's harvested by 11:30. Everything's processed, right? So you're sitting on your raw material to start working with to make wine. Now, before we get into that next process, y'all have been testing different things over probably longer than 3 years. You've been testing the formulas of what you guys are going to do.
Sure.
So, did you have it already set in your mind that this is what we're going to do with this product? Or did it come down to, man, I really don't know. Should we do a little bit here, do a little bit here? I mean, how did that decision come to be?
So in 18, so we had, when we came home from school, from class, we started picturing what maybe a wine facility would look like in a small tasting room.
Okay.
And we had built out on a piece of paper maybe a 20 by 20 building beside our house.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, we can put a small building right here and start production. And well, in 2018, still, when we got the piece of property came available. Was it 19?
That was 19.
Came a piece of property adjacent to our home became available, and we were like, okay, Lord, well, listen. I mean, so we bought that piece of property, which is now houses the winery and tasting room. But it took us a long time to drawing out everything. I mean, a long time to draw out everything, to make sure we had it. But we were going to put it up beside the house until that piece of property came available. All
Now,
the
the
while,
vineyard's still on the same piece of property, right?
correct, behind the
Okay.
house. Correct.
The harvest we're talking about. Right.
So all while we were trying to figure out the laws, the regulatory, all the guidelines that we had to go by, and then we had this harvest. Well, we learned that anything we make during that harvest, we couldn't sell at the winery
If we had a facility.
So ultimately, we got to play with the wine again.
Yeah.
But from our first harvest, we never sold it at the winery because you have to make wine in a bonded wine
Gotcha.
premises,
Which makes
which
sense.
we didn't have at that time. So we were still, in a sense, at that same stage that we had been before. But we really got to play with this wine. We chose to make a rosé. No, we did. Yeah.
That's the one I ruined.
Oh, that's the one you ruined.
Yeah, the airlock came apart.
That's right.
Yeah,
In the
we
foyer.
were still learning.
That's right.
You had to bring that up on camera.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
right.
The one that ruined.
Yeah.
That's right.
How much, what was, so the tonnage of grapes, so 2,000 pounds came in. How much product did you get out of that 2,000? How many gallons did you get out of 2,000 that was usable to work with?
It wasn't quite what it should have been because we weren't able to press it the way that it really needed to be. So we didn't get but about 100 gallons.
Okay, so now we have 100 gallons to work with.
Yeah.
Right.
And she just spilled the beans that you screwed up a good portion.
Right.
Almost the
that.
whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, learning along the way, had it going. So that was one of the weirdest things I think we'd ever done because I rolled the tank to the back door at our house, and did we bucket? I think we bucketed all that juice with 5-gallon buckets into that tank.
Uh-huh.
So it's
it in there.
unfermented juice at this point, and we took it with 5-gallon buckets and put it into this stainless steel tank that wouldn't come out of my back door because it was too wide. So we put it in the tank. I rolled the tank back into the foyer and started fermentation. And it did ferment. We fermented out the wine, or fermented out the juice, and we had wine.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until, probably a month later or so down the road, that I had realized I messed it up. And I didn't know that I had done it. But it wasn't really anything that we had done. It was actually a equipment failure and I didn't realize that I was oxidizing the wine the whole time.
Which is not good.
No, that is wine's first enemy is oxygen. So, yeah, I had an airlock on the top of that tank, which is made to let carbon dioxide
Right.
out, and nothing comes in, and it had fallen apart.
So how
And
does
it was-
that work in your house when you're fermenting in your house? And we're not talking about it like a 5-gallon water jug that,
Oh no,
back room.
it smells weird for a little
Right.
while.
The kids always know the smell of fermentation.
Always.
So if you can imagine, I go into a fair amount of homes a year, and I know what fermentation smells like because occasionally, once or twice a year, I'll walk into a house where they've got some muscadine wine that they're
Yeah.
fermenting in a
Yeah.
closet.
Sure.
Yeah.
And using which looks like a water jug, one of them 5-gallon water
Yeah.
jugs that they're doing it in.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So there is definitely a smell that comes along with it.
Yeah.
Some is worse than others.
That's right.
So you realize the mistake that you made. Did you have any additional product to work with out of that?
Not out of that one.
Weed killer. It went on the front yard and it killed grass. So, just so you know.
It did.
Okay.
It did kill the grass.
Kill the grass.
Yeah.
All right. So first run at it on growing,
Yeah.
it hit.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Second run, we more educated. We've got the growing. We feel like we made a ton of progress. We got a product we could work with, but the making process, we learned a lesson on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Learn to check my equipment.
So at least from that standpoint, you were not, you knew you couldn't sell it. So you didn't have that fear of financial loss at that point.
Right.
Right.
But the being able to experiment and learn to grow in that area, you just kind of missed that opportunity. All right, so that's out the window. We're just going to just keep looking forward.
Yeah.
So then it would be, I'm assuming the vineyard produces every year. So
Correct.
we roll into the next year. So during the time of that harvest moving into the next year, what type of growth did you guys experience? What did y'all do within that year period to improve or set yourself up for a business model?
We planted on the new property.
Okay.
We cleared it off. It took a long time
Took a
to
year.
clear it. Took a year to clear it off, and then we planted 5 new varietals
Okay.
that were released in 2020. We planted them in 2020. They are newly released from UC Davis, hybrid varietals, but they come from the parentage that those vinifera varietals that I mentioned before, like the Cabernet Sauvignon and the Chardonnays and all those vinifera grapes that people are used to. It comes from, they have 98% parentage of those. And they've been under testing for 15, 20 years or so
Yeah.
in the Florida area. So this typical heat climate
So
area.
you felt like if they're performing well in Florida, we should have a good run of it here.
Yes. So they released them in 2020. We were able to get 600 or so.
Yeah.
Of all 5 varietals. So 600 total. Broken up
600
in
total new.
total new.
So we went from 300. We just put 600 with. So we're just under 1,000 plants.
Correct.
That
Right.
you have out there.
Correct.
You guys don't play, do you?
No.
I mean, it's just like we're going to find the end
We
of this.
ain't even made $1 yet. So we started. So during that year, we started with the branding. We started
Logo, by
having,
the way, I absolutely love it. You know,
Thank you.
Thank you.
it's simple, but yet it stands out, and it's got that family feel, that
Thank you.
home feel. Love the logo.
Thank
Thank you.
you. That's him. That's Michael in the Vineyard. He always wears this big hat, and I took a vector of that and created the logo. I wanted something simple and to represent farmer, and of course he's thirsty. So, but we started with the branding, and we started giving wine tastings at the house from just things that we had procured over the year, really started honing in on our craft for our sweet wines.
Okay.
And we started selling T-shirts because you can't sell wine.
Right.
So I started selling T-shirts. I started selling, um, handbags, whatever I could to get something coming in. And we would give away wine. But the wine tastings really helped develop on our line today our sweet wines, because we felt a little bit more confident with our sweet wines than we did our dries at that point. So our peach and our crush, those are from wine tastings at the house that people, I gave them a little card, tasting notes, it's anonymous up here, and, what you want to name the wine. And hundreds, I have a stack of hundreds.
You ever get your
Um,
feelings hurt based on some of the comments that
Oh
you got?
yeah,
Oh, yeah,
some
of
people
course.
are like,
Yeah.
bleh, nasty, gross, and of course, then you learn there's sweet wine drinkers and there's
Sure.
dry wine drinkers, and you learn that whole process of even talking about the wines. I mean, it learn, we gave away, we had all of our food, and we had just the entertainment side of things, and just I love that.
What year of production did you guys build the tasting room and the winery?
What year of production? We built it in 20. We started
Poured the
in
slab in November.
2020.
Okay, so that's the same year that y'all planted the 600.
Correct.
That's right.
And what year
Uh-huh.
did you have the failure of the oxidation?
That was our 19
19.
harvest.
Okay, so 19 harvest.
Uh-huh.
You're building your 600 plants, and you're building the tasting room
Mhm.
that next year. So going through that process, you're looking at the 2020 harvest. You're looking at setting up a business plan that to be able to have the wineries and do everything that's required for you guys to be able to sell. Now, did y'all make that on that 20 harvest? Was the winery built and everything set up to where you guys could be in production in 20?
No,
Still wasn't.
Still wasn't in
Still
production.
wasn't.
we
So-
weren't in production for 2 years
Yeah, we poured the slab in 20 and opened the doors in
Yeah.
22.
because
Okay.
we built. So we had it erected by a local builder, but then everything else we did ourselves.
Okay.
So it took a long time to build it.
Sure.
And then in that meantime, we were learning what business model we needed to go by, because where you're probably getting at is you're not going to have your grapes ready. You're not going to
Yeah.
have enough wine. You're not going to have enough, all thoughts that were going through our head. How do we do this? And again, it was meeting other winemakers and their solutions, other vineyard owners. We traveled from California to Texas was our biggest industry and has been the biggest help for an absorbent amount of winemakers,
Okay.
all in one. So we visited probably 25, 30 wineries, as much as we could during that 2 years too, as we were building to try to figure out, what are our solutions for that. So we started making wine, the wine that we wanted, with a facility in California, so that we would have wine ready for when we opened.
Okay, so you were able to farm out your production
Correct.
with your product, done the way you asked them to do it, so that when you open, you've got product that you can actually sell.
Correct. But that was so just think of it. You've got one wine, though. I've got one wine I could sell that's from the product from behind my house.
Mhm.
I need a whole line.
Yeah.
Right? I need to have sweet, I need to have dry, I need to have, what
Because
what
everybody
works well.
is not everybody is well versed in all of the different varieties, correct?
Correct.
Sure.
You got
Correct.
people that probably just want, I want to stay in my lane, I want to stay with
Yeah.
this, I don't want to get out of it. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But for you guys to be able to open up with something to really offer and keep people coming back,
Mm-hmm.
you had to bring others in.
That's
for that.
correct.
So, but you had 2 years to play around with, 2 years of harvest that you can work to perfect what you guys are doing. So, second year of harvest,
Mm-hmm.
we get the product. What was the tonnage on that second year? About the same?
Let's see, that would have been, was that our 2020?
Yeah, that would be 2020.
It was 2 tons. It got
It was
doubled.
it did double.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then you probably but were you able to get more product out of it?
I'm trying to remember now.
Mhm.
Uh, because we still use the 600-liter tank, so
Yeah.
I think we did. I want to say it was closer to that 150 mark.
We got 2 tanks.
We did get 2 tanks. We
got
bought
2.
another tank.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how did that production process go?
It was very similar to our first one, honestly, because we had the same equipment, we had the same things. I think that obviously we have a new tank now, the new airlock tank that are making sure our equipment worked well. We practiced with a rosé from that one because we wanted to make a rosé.
Mm-hmm.
So
How did it turn out?
it was good.
It was good.
It was good.
Yep.
We had to give all that away too.
We did. Yeah, not a single dollar.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
how rewarding did that feel, knowing that
Yeah.
we did it?
Yeah.
I mean, we've got something that we grew, that we harvest with help,
Yeah.
that we produced, and it's good. Tell me about that high five moment. Was there a high five moment when
I
we?
don't know if there was at that point. My honest opinion, I think because our brains were on this huge, bigger project that we had going on at the time, and we
Yeah.
knew. I mean, I mean that's my honest opinion. I think we had this big vision and a lot of things to do. We're really super proud about the wine, but we knew we had to give it away. We had to really focus on next steps and what that looked like, and the vision of the company, but to be able to give away our own product was amazing. I mean,
But could you start seeing that vision become a reality, knowing that I've got a viable product
right?
now?
Absolutely,
I've got a viable product.
absolutely.
Now, I don't want you to give any specifics, and that's not my intent here,
Mhm.
but I want the listeners and those that are watching to kind of track a little bit of this with me. This started out. What year did you put the first plants in the ground?
8 years ago.
Yeah, it was.
How many years did it take you before you got to that second
17.
harvest?
We put them in 17. I think it was 17.
Mhm.
So then it would be so that
4 years later.
yeah, so 4 years through this process
Mhm.
of education, formal and informal education, visiting all these places, the countless hours that it took of investing your time and investing a lot of money.
Mhm.
And we still haven't made anything. And I would have to assume, just kind of totaling things up in my head, that there is a lot that's invested in this financially, not just your time, but just from a financial
Mhm.
standpoint.
Sure.
But it sounds like to me that you guys, you saw the end. You may not had the plans completely drawn out, but you saw where this was going,
Mhm.
and you're like, yes, we're going to do this. We're going to do it. When did you feel that momentum start building that says, you know what, this is going to happen?
Mhm.
At what point did that happen? Did it happen just a little gradual over time, or was there one defining moment to where you guys just sat back and said, you know what, we may not have it all figured out, but dang, this is going to happen?
Mhm.
I know when mine was.
When was yours?
When we were standing on the top of that hill, standing on a slab.
Yeah.
I had to get all the way to the concrete to figure it out.
Yeah.
Once there was concrete for the
Yeah.
tasting room, because we had drawn, we had drawn so much, we had drawn so many things, and the plans, and we hadn't even touched base on the process of trying to become the legal side.
Sure.
Not just building, but all of the red tape from a state and federal level. I had no idea. And thankfully she is very persistent in figuring that stuff out. But yeah, the aha moment for me was definitely standing on the slab and going, okay, well, we drew it. We've steadily been investing still,
Mhm.
Financially, and now we're standing on real concrete.
Hmm.
There's a building it's gonna be here, and we had lunch on the slab with the
Mhm.
kids, set up a table and just sat there and had lunch. And that was a moment for me for sure.
Yeah. Talking to them about our vision and where we want it,
Yep.
what it's going to look like. And
How old were the kids at that time?
Porter,
Let's see. Thompson was a little over.
10 and 5, I
I
think.
was gonna say he was close to 6. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So all he wanted to do was ride his bicycle on the concrete. You know, what I mean,
So
it's
when
not.
so when you started this, you had like a 1-year-old that was right there in the mix that's having to get toted around through all of this.
He
It got
was
the experience
2.
too.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was 2 and chasing me on his little John Deere Gator. You know,
Yeah.
out there in the vineyard. If I was on the tractor, he was gonna follow me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you guys built the winery and tasting room, I mean, that place is beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
I would assume that someone with not as great of a vision would have erected a metal building and open warehouse just to be able to get done what's done. But you
Mhm.
guys, when you built something beautiful for that area. And
you.
I don't know who, if there was any influence, anyone else helping you design it, or it was all you. The design is just fantastic for the
Thank
place.
you.
It's very inviting, aesthetically pleasing. It's not, but yet still simple. It's very
Mhm.
reflective of the logo you guys have. It's I think you nailed it when it came to the tasting room.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So let's advance. We get to the first that we can actually sell. It hits the shelves. Now, did you look at trying to distribute some of it, or was all of it going to be sold in house, all local?
All of it still is direct to consumer out of our tasting room.
When you started selling those bottles and you started getting feedback, how did that feel?
That was so we had our soft opening, and when we invited 100, I believe, of our friends,
Yeah, we said it was 100.
and that night was very, very emotional.
I can imagine.
I mean,
That was
because
May.
very, very emotional. I mean, just seeing my friends there and just being able to, now we have product. Now we have all of these, to the glasses that I had picked out, to the dining table, to the menus, to the everything sort of coming together all at one time. I was just overwhelmed. I mean, it took me a long time to get over that night just because it was so. My friends were there. They have been so supportive since the very beginning. Um, and, of course, my husband's there, my kids are there, my dad, everything. And they're just like, they're looking and like, you did this. Can you believe you did this? I'm like, no, I can't believe we did this
Yeah, we
yet.
still.
It was amazing. And then we had grand opening, and we had over 1,000 people come in one day.
Wow.
And
How long did it take you to sell out of your first product?
so we had made wine for what we had thought would have been a year. We sold out of 75% of it in one day.
Wow.
Yeah, according to our business plan, we had a very lengthy business
But
plan.
that just shows you the support of our community,
Oh
how
my
great
gosh.
our people are,
Yes.
and want to
Absolutely.
show up and support what's
Yeah.
done local.
Yeah.
The mayor of West Monroe, Mayor Mitchell, has always wears a pin and it says "Shop Local," "Shop West." I think it
Mhm.
says "Shop West" on it, but the promotion is "Shop Local." I know that you guys have the ability to sell wine across the country, but knowing that for us here locally, that we have, and you guys are not the only ones out there, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm casting shade on anyone else that's out there. We've got a
Sure.
lot of great um, people that are doing some amazing things locally. But for you guys specifically to be able to have that product grown here, it wasn't in your blood prior to us that we're coming from a winemaking family. It just started off that it's I want something pretty to look at
Yeah.
on the land, and grew to this pear. I don't know, how do you describe it?
It was the mind eraser.
Yeah, the mind
Yeah.
eraser
Oh,
that led you guys down a path and say, you know what? I think we want to do a little bit more here and to get the education and to go out and seek the information
Mhm.
to make yourself better. And your kids having the opportunity to be able to watch you guys through that process to be where you're at today, absolutely amazing. absolutely amazing.
Thank
And I
you.
think you guys are an inspiration to others that want to start. And it doesn't have to be making wine or having a winery. It's that if you are passionate enough about something and you're willing to try to put the effort in, try to figure it out, and be able to throw all your cards on the table, you can achieve a lot more than you realize. Do you think yourself 10 years ago would have ever imagined that you would have this today?
Ever? No,
No.
no. I'm a nurse practitioner, and I went to school to help people to become, a health in the medical field. And here I am selling wine, and
Yeah.
I'm still in the medical field.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I would have thought, I never would have thought this little seed of passion would have turned into what it is today. There was no option for, no, we're going to stop doing this. It was just because Michael and I enjoy it so much.
I mean, you can tell the way you guys kind of feed off one another that it's not just something that we do on the side. It's something that we put
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
ourselves into this,
Yeah.
and um, I think the product speaks for itself. So tell us before we end here. I want you to tell a little bit about what the tasting room is, when is it open,
Mhm.
and what kind of experience can someone expect when they come out?
So the tasting room, when you enter through the front, it's about let's see, the main room's about 1,600 square feet. The tasting bar is right when you walk in, a big U-shaped tasting bar. We're open on Saturdays right now from 12 to 7. We have live music every Saturday, local artists from 3 to 6. If you come early enough and we're not crazy busy, you can have tastings with myself or Savannah at the tasting bar. We have food. We have a food menu. We've got 3 different types of flatbreads. We do have a charcuterie board. We've got some local meats and stuff on the charcuterie board too. It's easy to sit down and lose yourself in time when you come in there just to hang out. We love having it. Saturdays are way more fun now than they used to be. It's a nice social environment, and we love talking to everybody. When they come in, talking them through the wines, talking. It's always fun to be able to look at them and say, everything that you're tasting, we've done. There's nothing about it I can't tell you.
Your website. In my space, there's a lot of transactions that happen online. That's
Sure.
where a lot of the marketing comes from. So your website, it's the thirstyfarmerwines.com.
Correct.
Your website is very well done, but the thing that really kind of, I'm sure you guys learned that this is great way to do it, but the wine club,
Mhm.
and then the pairings that you guys have with that. So what I think would be cool, even if someone's visiting that's not from this area and they want to come in and check it out, they can come in and do some tastings of things, and they can leave with a membership or join the wine club to where this stuff can be delivered to their house,
Absolutely.
and continue the experience and beyond.
Absolutely. So we
So
have 3 different wine clubs. It's 2, 4, 6 bottles, and you can and it's 4 times a year. With that wine club, you get 15% off all your wines. You get access to our early releases. So our next wine that's coming up in January, all of our wine club members will get first access to that.
fantastic.
We have wine club pickup parties, which are super fun. I have complimentary charcuterie for all of our wine club members. They come and pick up their wine and get to come a little bit early. We also have wine club exclusive events. So we mentioned that we're open on Saturdays, but we also are starting to do bring your own steak nights, in which you
Okay.
bring your own steak. Our wine club members get first dibs on that. But I provide all the sides. You bring your own steak or meat, protein of your choice. You get to cook it out back on our crush pad, on our grills, hang out, listen to some music, and it's a
What
good chill night
what a
too.
great experience to be able to
It's
offer.
fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot
For
of
too
fun.
many times I've heard people say, "Well, there's nothing to do in this town."
Right.
And I'm saying, you guys have no idea. If you're willing just to look, we've got everything I feel like a big city has to offer. You just may have to look a little bit
That's
harder.
right.
And for what's happening out in Calhoun with small businesses like yourself, it's just given that next level of excitement that's bringing to our community. I appreciate the efforts that as small business owners that you guys put into our community, and the product that you guys are offering is fantastic. So thank you all so much for coming in. We'll make sure in our show notes that we put links to all of y'all's contact information, the website, so people want to learn more and want to get in touch with y'all. You'll know how to do it. And thanks
Sure.
again for just taking the opportunity to come in and just let me have the privilege of hearing your story, and so that maybe others can experience it and
Yeah.
show up one day and maybe have some wine.
Yeah, thank
absolutely.
you for helping us share it. That means a lot. We
Cool.
appreciate it. It's very nice to meet
Do
you.
appreciate it.
And you're gonna have to come have some wine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you got to come see us.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, you're
Thank you.
welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to watch or listen to this podcast. We really appreciate your involvement. Please leave us a comment, or even better yet, subscribe to this podcast and hit that notification bell so that you can be alerted for every new episode when it hits.